Mississippi don't care about.
You know what? It's weird, Austin, because like my state just ranked, I think maybe the bottom or close to the bottom on education, and Mississippi has now ranked much higher. Like they're actually. Marshall, weren't you in a room with me where we learned that statistic?
Yes, ma'am.
We were kind of surprised. Like Mississippi it used to be like down, 48th to 50th.
No, it's 48th and 49th, and it's gotten up into the top 10 in terms of education.
It's gotten it, yeah. And my state is and Austin, my state's all the way at the bottom, and we've got a lot of money. Like we're not a poor state, so it's interesting. I mean, you just have to have the priorities straight, I guess. They really did something right there.
Mississippi
No, I mean, right. Marshall and I were in a room. We were really shocked by the statistics on that, but no, they've moved up quite a bit.
Like gross, like talking about like population, or talking about like
no,
like,
ranks.
economics?
No. So there's different ways you could argue this, but a lot of people would say that the best way to fix it is to fix the education system, so that you're creating a generation of educated and more obviously that's going to inure to the benefit of the state, correct? I mean, logically. And Mississippi was always ranked like in the last 3 in the country on education, and it's now ranked. Marshall will know the number.
It's 16th. I just Googled it because I love fact-checking people.
Okay.
And it says Mississippi generally holds a solid mid to upper tier status for K-12 public education, ranking 16th. And I would have thought they would be bottom 10.
Bingo, right? And Dylan, look at my state, which is like we are a rich state. We don't have, budget issues. We have a casino industry that underwrites it. And I don't know if we hit 50, but we're like all the way down there. So,
you know what it is? I think Mississippi keeps to themselves. Like California, they might have money, like I'm in California, but these people are mostly liberal, brain-dead, just idiots that you would go, you might be educated, but you're not educated. Like, you're not smart. I think people like Mississippi, Louisiana, even just some random-ass states that they're like, we're not going to get involved in the weird American shit. We want to raise our kids. We want traditional values. And we want nothing to do with this weird mockery of America that's been happening. And you start to see the education rise up in places like that.
I mean, like Dylan teaching real mathematics, things like that.
Yeah, and just in California, they spend an hour or 2 a day teaching now general, like, not general, your gender. Body dysmorphia classes to turn them all gay and to make them trans, so by the time they're in 3rd grade, they're coming home and saying, Mom, I think I'm another gender now. They do, like, that's what we do in California.
Do you understand that the best
Dylan, I'd like that to be
public higher education system in
I know for a fact, because I'm in California and we're dealing with trying to find the right school for a 3-year-old, because we have family friends who have already they've moved out of California. It's an issue in California. Like it's been widely discussed.
They're spending an hour on gender at the primary school level or secondary school level.
Yeah, that's weird.
It is something California prides itself on, is teaching you useless shit and indoctrinating children, which again is why I think people that are in the southern states that are not as exposed, I think, to it and want that traditional, they focus on school.
That's
Isn't state mandated, Dylan, or will it be
foundational?
I have a question. Why do you measure?
Wait, let me ask Dylan something.
Hold on, John. Abby wanted to speak.
Dylan, is that state mandated, or do you think it varies in county? Like if you were in Orange County, it might be different than if you're.
We're having problems. So we're in Monterey County. In the Bay Area, and we've looked now at like many different cities and contacted schools and like gone over like curriculum, and like we act like we're possibly a transgender family, so that way they're welcoming us with open arms, and they're not like thinking, well, I voted for Trump and I don't want anything to do with this. So
Dylan, could you show us a link so we could see the verified info?
I can certainly get you I could send you screenshots of the emails from the school districts telling us that they make sure to be inclusive and spend time throughout the days and the weeks with the kids. And like you wouldn't believe the shit that these people openly send you. All you have to do is contact a school in California. It does vary slightly by county, but it's an issue. There's like a wave of parents over the last few years that have moved out specifically for this issue.
Do you think your
What?
area, I mean, the school board in the Monterey area is woke, or, I mean, because I.
Yeah. We only have
And that area is kind of red, some of it.
we only have no King's protests here, and everyone's got gay flags for the month of June. So yes, it's very liberal.
So, wait, what's wrong with having drag queens read to your children?
You know, it's a solid question.
What's interesting is, Dylan, is you're starting off on a lie. You're starting off saying that you're a transgender couple, so they're gonna want to seem accommodating and say yes, we're all inclusive. We don't do any of that.
So I've called as a regular person, and they give you one answer, and it is slightly vague. And then if you call back or you contact through email, and you just slightly answer your, because you can literally have ChatGPT rewrite your questions as a certain perspective. So we've gone above and beyond to go, well, what are they going to say to this person? What do they say to this? So I'll call, I'll get one answer, I'll email, I get another. I mean, we've been doing our research for years now, as it's been a California issue. And I'm not trying to make this the top of the conversation because I know it's fucking weird, but I'm just saying that's why Mississippi probably jumped up to 16th. And I'm willing to bet if we looked at what ones dropped and what ones went up, it's all the liberal, very weird focused ones that aren't on education in the traditional sense. They're on woke education.
That's
Which is a thing.
It sounds
The
like
top
you're having
public schools- Let's be honest here about how rankings work. The way rankings are set up, there's very little variability at the top. You can move up when you're at the bottom, but at the top, it's pretty stable. So California is always ranked in the top 5, along with
That makes sense.
Massachusetts and New Jersey.
Yeah, Massachusetts always is at the top. I mean,
Always.
I see that, but I also think that Dylan makes a good point. I mean, when you have a school board that gets all woke, then they change the fundamentals on how it's being taught. It's going to affect the. I mean, you got to look at what the Iowa test scores or whatever. What's the standardized testing that they do?
The
We're
SATs
talking
and
about-
ACTs.
No, the
Dylan, I was going to say, it sounds like you're having a Ollie G show experience with a bunch of school bureaucrats that went to rando Cal States.
I do have fun with it. I do have fun with it. If you're going to have to call schools all over fucking California to find a good one and you know what you're dealing with, yeah, after a certain amount of time you have fun with it, you know.
And this is
the
for
way you gotta do it.
elementary, you said. Right?
This is just for just a regular fucking American going. Shouldn't kindergarten and like public school? I mean, even if you go private, that's also a whole other issue because they also have to. It's the whole thing. It's a weird thing raising a kid in America right now. School isn't what I was raised. Like when I went to school, like I was an honor roll. I was class president. I went and graduated with honors. I was in clubs. I was focused on learning. I read multiple books. I still read. Like it's just the school today is not the school from the '80s, and it certainly isn't the school from the before that. And America isn't. And I mean, if you look at America's education list, we're not the number one education, in the world.
No, the K-12 system in the U.S. is catastrophic. I'll give a personal example. So I work at a public state school in Massachusetts. I run a conditional admit program. So this is for students who need additional support before they start in the fall. Many of them are English language learners or non-native English speakers. Many of them are recent immigrants, etc. There were 10 students out of 400 that we had to kick out of the program because they literally did not have enough of a basic understanding of English to do the conditional program. Like, we had to literally say, sorry, you can't do that. To me, that was scary because I'm like, you're about to start college, meaning you graduated high school. How did you graduate high school not speaking English? Like, I'm terrified. That's a scary.
It's called. There's a every school has it's a curve. Like I remember when everybody was failing chemistry, they had to do a curve. So if you got a 46 on the test, technically that was a C minus, even though that's definitely failing. And if you got a 58, that was an A plus because you had to curve it because nobody was understanding it until Adderall came out, and then we understood things better. But
okay, come on now. I was diagnosed with ADHD. I take Adderall. Don't do that.
But come on.
We spend more on education and get worse results.
Illusion of education, not actually implementation.
Yeah, right. But you know why?
It's the strategies. That's why.
It's because it's because of the pensions, the retirement funds, and all the administrative costs. Yes.
Kids are smarter nowadays. Young
No,
kids are
no,
They're not. They're not
they're
smart
not.
at all. They
The
can't
reason why
read.
they're not
Guys,
smarter-
you're always right.
No. They're not. It's
You guys are
because
biased.
pensions got stolen from Wall Street. No, you don't understand how bad this pension crisis is. I'm an accountant. I used to audit pension plans of this shit. What they've done systematically is these Wall Street firms have stolen from these school pension funds, and they're so underfunded because what happened was they had to get board members on these pensions, and they would get an art teacher, a gym teacher, a first grade teacher. Now, they're good people, nothing wrong against them, but what do they know about money? Nothing. And what these companies would do is they'd say, oh, they're fiduciary fees, we're going to give you this retreat in Hawaii, and we're going to tell you everything's good. So we're spending more money on these retiree benefits than we are actually paying the educators. So some states have changed this around. Like in Michigan, the teachers have to pay in like 5% or something of their salary. And the formula here in Michigan is you take your last year of salary, you multiply it by 2%, and then you times it by the number of years worked. Well, they've shifted that formula around to like 1.5% to fool around with it. But here's where it gets interesting. They didn't implement this until 2010. So if you're a teacher that retired in 2013, you may be paid into it for 3 years. So it's a Ponzi scheme like Social Security. And that is what is hurting these schools, hurting our funding, because it's just going to all these retiree benefits.
And a lot of, I think a lot of.
Guys, let me.
Let Meg say something. Can you let Meg speak, please?
A lot of education starts at home. I know that, you may run into some things at a school, but I mean, if you're reading to your kids at home and you're teaching them kind of like, okay, you're in sports or something, and this is, okay, this is the girls' team, so you join with a bunch of girls, you join your son, you join with a bunch of boys. The parents at home have the most say, so you can, whatever kind of some weirdness that you meet up in schools, they can kind of roll their eyes and be like, oh my god, like whatever, but a lot of it is at home. So definitely, my parents, like, they would read to me, my brother and I, at night. We started reading Lord of the Rings when I was probably 8 years old, like at night in the winter time. And so I got my love of reading and then like more advanced reading. But a lot of it, I mean, the home is always more influential than the school, as long as the parents are involved. And it sounds like you are involved. So I mean, get your kids in sports, girls with girls, boys with boys. That does that with the gender. Read to them after school, make sure that they're reading at like a higher level. That takes care of the education. Make sure that they question everything. They'll be the ones questioning, well, how can a male become female? And then the teacher will just go with that and just be like, all right, this kid is not buying our curriculum. But I mean, I think if you educate your kids really well at school, at home, when they get to school, they can sort of be a little bit more of that, like, yeah, there's something to me.
The other problem, you mentioned the home being one of the educational elements in a child's foundational development, right? I know people are going to go, you're biased now because you watch Joe Rogan, but Tim Dillon was on Joe Rogan, and they're talking about literally the family, America, where we're at, and they're talking about how family and the importance of that role in a child's life has been replaced now with ideologies, brand, community, echo chambers that they, want to be a part, and the family has become less and less important to the fact that, like, back in the day, they made a statement that back in the day, like on Thanksgiving, you wouldn't show up high on drugs because it would embarrass your family. Now people are like getting high right before they do their dinner. It's a different dynamic. We're like, we've lost the family respect, the family foundation. Maybe some people have it, but in America, we're so lost due to this woke mind virus bullshit that the family doesn't have as much value or importance or value in a kid's life at all.
I can definitely take.
John, request my...
They're bonus. They're more important than their mom and dad.
John, accept my request.
I'm just gonna finish. I mean that there may be some families that I can tell you 100% that is not mine growing up, and I'm actually just like literally out of college, just several years. So that was family has always been the most important thing.
Is religion important in your family? Just a question.
Love is important in my family.
But you're not like a religion. You guys don't go to church or anything.
Let her finish.
Love is very important. And we had, Christmas would be kind of like the spirit of Christmas, which would be kind of like love, and it would be, we did have some of the sort of like, undertones of like a European Christmas. And then, we'd have like Easter baskets. So yes, there was a little bit, we got to choose. I personally did not choose religion because when I was little, I went to Sunday school. And so there was something that freaked me out that had me screaming and crying, and my mom had to pick me up, and I never went back. So they were teaching a 5-year-old about hell, and they had to pick me up, and I never went back. So religion, it's been something that's been respected, but it's been more like love is the highest, and you don't diss or insult or embarrass people you love. So coming to dinner, like for example, country clubs. Yes, we had Christmas dinners often before the holiday at country clubs. Coming to one of those, drunk or high, oh no.
Exactly. Yep.
You would be dragged out, given a shouting to, and probably told to walk home, even if it was several miles.
Yep.
That would not be tolerated. Absolutely not. And the family would be so embarrassed. There'd be apologies. You'd never be invited back again. It would be so shameful that you knew that. In the first place, I didn't do drugs or drinking underage. But in the second place, like you knew how to behave. Like we went to cotillion, like we knew how to behave at those dinners, and we didn't want to miss them. So it was like we see with our family.
I think there's another issue though. And it's interesting when you talk about, because I agree with you that it's from the family, and the nucleus family has changed so dramatically. The average family today, by percentage, is not necessarily the same mother and father throughout the lifespan of the child. Things change, or there's single families, but also what was really popular, and this is when I was a kid, but even before my time, my parents' generation. So I don't know. You said, Mamdouh, you said you're in Massachusetts. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and we had a slew of teacher colleges like throughout the state. I think our state, although people think of all the universities or colleges in Massachusetts, I think Pennsylvania might have had more. And so many of our state schools were teachers' colleges, and it was a big deal to become a teacher. And the disparity of salary wasn't as extreme as it is now on what teachers get paid and other professions that you put in the 4 years. But also when someone graduated at teachers college, they graduated whether there was elementary education or they were history or mathematics teachers. Now they're graduating with gender studies or like some bizarre major and going in and teaching. And I also don't think that the teacher colleges are as popular. So I think that how we're producing teachers has changed considerably.
I definitely wouldn't. There probably are some differences. Yeah, that part I don't know. But you did bring up a good point about the single parent house. Both my parents have been together and married since before I was born. They're still together and married. So
But that's not the norm.
that is yeah, and sadly that is becoming less and less frequent. And I think Abby that does have a lot to do with it. Is I've had stable parents my entire life, but someone who has like a single parent, that is just going to be a very different experience. So that is one part I kind of forget, and you brought up, which was I think is really underlooked at. Like that, I think the amount of effect it has on kids is so significant that people might actually consider like, not I don't know, not divorce is a means of divorce, but just putting more value on that.
There's probably some statistic, Dylan left, but it is good with looking these things up. But there's probably some statistic on, if you look at the nucleus of the family, pick a decade, whether you look at the 50s or the 60s, things started to change.
It also distracts you from other things going on in politics as well.
No.
Oh, yes, it does.
Michael's dad, some other dude, and I think it was like a fifth dude.
Wow.
And they will be at the house, and something will happen at a certain time, like 7 or 8, and they will go, all right, we're gonna get going on stuff like that, and
It's easier to decipher. It probably is even niggas see, niggas with dyed hair, and they're just like, oh, this is.
yeah, they see a 19-year-old kid rapping, Steve.
It's like, cause everything you're just talking about, like G-Funk and like Miami bass or like jazz rap, all of this has some type of history.
Airplanes that are based there, then those airplanes need mechanical inspection every year, maybe every 100 hours. They have repairs periodically, and capturing the revenue from the airport means that there's a mechanic on the airport that can do that work.
I see what you're saying. So capturing the value of certain services that tend to go along with having aircraft in an airport.
Fuel sales.
Okay.
There's all kinds of ways to lose out on the revenue of the airport. Like if the fuel price is too high, people will literally wake up in the morning, fly to a different airport and get fuel. That's one way you could lose out on fuel sales.
Wait.
That, right? Like,
Yeah.
the central part of patriarchy was patriarchality, right? Where if you're a woman, you have to move on to the land that a man owns, your husband or your father or whatever. And women being able to, I just know this from the American context, sorry, I don't know the Bible. But women being able to inherit land and control land is a disruption of that. That's why the Women's Property Acts are such a big deal in the early 19th century in the United States.
I mean, I literally read what it said.
You sure did.
I mean, you sure did. You read it twice, and I'm reading, and there are footnotes here at the bottom.
What are you reading? What verse? And what?
Numbers 27.
Oh, what a blessing.
The daughters inheriting the land.
Oh, not the women playing a role in the Old Testament.
Oh no,
According
to Dee. I have no idea what I'm talking about. This app is remarkable. Because I don't know what feminism
like the
is.
Notebook? I use that. Wait, I'm being serious. I didn't hear the conversation. I'm not trying to stir trouble. I just know that these conversations end badly, so I'm trying to bring a little humor and light. But, my general takeaway from the Old Testament is, I've said this before, so yeah, I've heard it before, but, matriarchs, patriarchs.
Wait, there are matriarchs in the Old Testament?
We, indeed.
Say it ain't so.
I'm just saying, I think there's a lot of things we can hate about Scripture, but, it's clear that, even the creation story is favorable to women. Unless y'all want to read the other version, but the first one is very clear. He made them male and female. There is no delineation of hierarchy or anything. He made them male and female. That's, yeah. I don't know. What's First Lady's take? That's who we need to hear from. Who I need to hear from.
She thought I was she didn't think it was feminist.
Oh, okay. I don't know about feminists, but I'm just saying, I feel like it's not totally restrictive to women either.
Right. That there is a sense of fairness.
Or there's a sense of understanding that the blessing of the so right now we've established the people, right? So so Israel now has it doesn't matter the gender of the person by which God uses. And it actually doesn't matter the character in some instance of the people that God uses. God can still, because God is providential, God can use, I'm trying not to use pronouns of God, but, God can use anyone, including a woman. Maybe we could say it's proto-feminine? Or proto-feminist? Okay, I'm done.
Proto-feminist, what the?
I don't know.
Proto.
Huh?
I'm just laughing at what she said. Whatever.
Proto-feminist.
Maybe.
Wait, I don't know. Deep, you should come up. I have no idea what you're saying. A lot of jurisprudence in the Western world is based off of these, quote, fake fictional stories. These things actually matter because laws. Anyway, I guess that's where you're a scientist. You don't believe fictional things matter in the world. No cultures, not just data sets. I'm not saying it's feminism. It's a feminist act. If you change inheritance laws in a deeply patriarchal society for women to be able to inherit property over men, that's the other part, over men, I don't know, that seems like a pretty big deal to me.
I think it is, especially when the my daughter said, well, wait a minute, hold up here. Wait. You mean to tell us that our father died and you're not going to pass the land over to us? We're his daughters. You have to correct this. Somewhere along the line, a law has to be established to change this. And fortunately for them, Moses listened to them and took it to the Lord. And the Lord said, yeah, that's right. Has to go to the daughters. That's what it says. I mean, I'm paraphrasing it because I'm not reading it word for word. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note how they were thinking when they were creating laws. And here's this new problem. We hadn't had this before. It usually passed down to the sons or whatever. And now we have daughters. What do we do? And the Lord said you're going to have to create a law saying the daughters, the land is supposed to pass to them. Does that make sense, Steve?
What's interesting about it is, if you know how it works, it actually created a legal precedent.
That's exactly
whereby
right.
subsequent women were able to appeal to hold property and so forth and so on.
Right.
Like, okay. Yeah, it's only feminism if Alice Walker did it, I guess.
Oh boy. Okay.
I remember when I was reading, I was like, wow. Because Moses didn't know what to do. They asked Moses to appeal. Moses was like, I don't know, I guess I'll take it to God. I don't know, that's crazy.
Yes.
And God was like, yeah, they're right. Change the law, and this is going to be the succession.
Right.
I mean, if this is not feminist, I will sojourn it. Mute out because.
I mean, well, who used to do that? Feminist. Dr. Zadis. Who said that? Feminism is a range of social, political movements and ideologies that aim to define and establish the political, economic, personal, and social equality of the sexes. So, I mean, by that particular definition, I can see, how one could possibly say that. But the word feminism in today's society is such, negative.
For some.
Yeah, for some, but that's just not the word I would have used. Because in my mind, it was more of reasoning, not necessarily about the women and trying to give them rights, but more so like it doesn't make sense if why wouldn't they be inherited to their father's land just because their father didn't have a son?
Because they're women.
So, yeah, okay. Like I said 20 minutes ago, you got it. I mean, well, wait a minute. So, wait a minute. So women weren't even counted in the first census, correct?
Yeah.
No, they weren't counted.
They just weren't. They
Are
weren't
named. Yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't named. So they
They
weren't
were in the number.
okay, they were part of the number. Okay. I mean, I think of it like this. I mean, before
You said they were part of the number, and I said come through numbers.
Yeah, come through numbers. I mean, but it seems to me, and I do go this. Prior to that, the land was not passed down to women. They weren't, and so now they are setting, or they're setting a precedence, right? Now, and it's because they speak. It's because the five daughters speak up about it. So that gives me an indication that they had a voice in it.
Well,
the moment that they said
reason of it.
or maybe
Like it's not fair, God, that now we're not going to have anything of what is ours because you didn't make a law that said we need to be included. I mean, you think about it. These people are growing by leaps and bounds.
Right.
They have 600,000 people by this time.
Right.
600,000 plus. Whereas before, we had a small group of people. We had small, we weren't actually, putting together a nation of a people. So now we got to start making some changes to some of the original rules in order to keep, moving forward.
Right.
So, I get it. I mean, like I said, by definition, in my mind, when it first was said, I'm like, feminism, no. But looking at the definition, making changes to make the women inclusive is a part of it. I just don't like the word. That's all.
I mean, we could use what your mama suggested, which is proto-feminist. Proto-feminism, we could use that.
I mean, it strikes me that it's the ancient world.
Right.
And something that is feminine, like the terms of feminism should be contextualized. And so, nobody would say, like, when people talk about the various waves of feminism, the various waves of feminism are contextualized. Why wouldn't we contextualize this act? Right? So, no, it's not going to be like, okay, we're going to have 12, Jacob has 12 sons, he can also have 12 daughters. Like, that's not within the realm, within this problem space, to use David Scott's term. It's not within the problem space. So if you take a definition that develops in the modern world and then try to put it back on it, that's like anachronistic presentism, bad history, bad philosophy. I mean, based off that, Sojourner Truth would not be a feminist.
That's right.
Because she's just basically saying, oh, this is basic stuff. By the way, Sojourner Truth cites the Bible to justify and claim her feminism in her most famous speeches, but that's a different discussion. It's neither here nor there. But I'm saying, given the fact that the laws are being written by Moses, the groundwork of a people, the fact that women could inherit something was surprising to me. And it was surprising because of their systematic exclusion from everything. And the thing that these particular women inherited in the story was the promised land. Huh? But we know feminism just means kicking the man out of the house for the Democrats and welfare. So it's fine.
I forgot something. Feminism means giving Mexicans citizenship too.
Yes, I found that out, yesterday? Amazing.
I don't want to agree with Ben Bottom. I don't want to agree with him. But I want to say that, I can sort of see the logic here because as he noted, like this particular book is sort of is creating a foundation for how Israel will live, you know, moving forward. And so if this is already concretized in this way, in this particular in this particular book, it makes way for this to happen again. It's not sort of like a one-off anomaly, but like he uses it as a way to sort of ink in, I don't want to say perpetuity, but to ink the future of the way in which women are treated around property. But I mean, actually, I think I can see the logic there. Mm-hmm. And I get about the instruction of marriage. I think that's maybe we should. Yeah, I don't want to get into a debate with anybody, but like I would see sort of like the marriage piece as sort of separate from the property piece, even though like it's sort of a condition to the property. Like there's a whole thing about marriage that because what I'm saying is like there's a whole thing about marriage that like if we wanted to sort of like go deeper with the marriage piece, we should. But like I think that doesn't negate from sort of this first piece on the property.
Let me read the part which Deep has in Numbers 36. The family heads of the clan of Gilead, son of Machir, the son of Manasseh. Manasseh is one of Joseph's, who are from the clans of the descendants of Joseph, came and spoke before Moses and the leaders, the heads of the Israelite families. They said, when the Lord commanded my Lord to give the land as an inheritance to the Israelites by lot, he ordered you to give the inheritance of our brother Zelophehad to his daughters. Now suppose they marry men from other Israelite tribes, then their inheritance will be taken from our ancestral inheritance and added to the tribe they marry into. And so part of the inheritance allotted to us will be taken away. When the year of Jubilee for the Israelites comes, their inheritance will be added to that of the tribe into which they marry, and their property will be taken from their tribal inheritance of our ancestors. Then at the Lord's command, Moses gave this order to the Israelites. What the tribe of the descendants of Joseph is saying is right. This is what the Lord commands for Zelophehad's daughters. They may marry anyone they please as long as they marry within their father's tribal clan. No inheritance in Israel is to pass from one tribe to another, for every Israelite shall keep the tribal inheritance of their ancestors. Every daughter who inherits land in any Israelite tribe must marry someone in her father's tribal clan, so that every Israelite will possess the inheritance of their ancestors. No inheritance may pass from one tribe to another, for each Israelite tribe is to keep the land it inherits. So Zelophehad's daughters did as the Lord commanded Moses. The daughters married their cousins on their father's side. They married the clans of Manasseh, son of Joseph. So, yeah, that's the same law that everybody had. Same law everybody had. It also says they may marry anyone they please in the tribe. So they also got to choose who they married. If you know what's happening in the book, you know the reason why no one's allowed to go cross tribe and land. So even the boys, so if you're in the, if you're a Reubenite, you're not allowed to marry somebody in Gad. Nobody's allowed to do that. There's no free choice. There's God.
Right.
Oh my God, she's talking about free choice. It's not 2025. It's hard to have a conversation with somebody in the chat. That's the other thing.
But I mean, and here's the thing: it really doesn't interfere with the law that was already established that women can still inherit.
100%.
Really? Yeah.
And in fact, what happens in Jewish law going forward is that on a range of issues, with this as precedent, I looked it up in the Talmud, women became equal to sons on lots of things, including land inheritance. It's actually a major precedent in Jewish law. But again, if you don't do what people did in 2020, it's not feminism. Feminism is only what we think it is. These things ain't star-sized. We'll get to the book of Esther later, book of Ruth.
Don't let.
They're really men. Maybe they were trans.
Don't let Spinoza come in here on Esther, okay? I'ma just warn you now. That's not gonna end well.
I actually like the book of Ruth.
one day.
It's not that long of a book.
Ain't nothing. Y'all talk about. Y'all never talk about poor Naomi. Never.
Yes. And we should talk about Naomi.
But I love Esther though. I know that it's not a real Purim is not a real holiday. For real. It's not a religious holiday, but her and Mordecai were nasty.
We'll go back. I'm still in my own personal stuff. I gotta get through. I gotta get through all.
Close your eyes and get comfortable. It's time to breathe deeply and relax completely. Breathe deeply and relax completely, allowing a quietness of spirit to come in. Feel the blood flowing through your arms and legs, through your body and mind. Relaxing. Take a deep breath. Hold it as long as you comfortably can. And then let it out slowly through slightly parted lips. And when the breath is all the way out, contract your stomach muscles and push it even further out and further out. And then repeat this process of breathing deeply and relaxing completely. And if any outside thoughts should come into your mind, simply brush them aside and return your concentration to the sound of my voice. And breathing deeply and relaxing completely. Breathing deeply and relaxing completely. And now use your imagination and feel your body relaxing one part at a time in response to my words. Play the role, play the part, and mentally relay the relaxing suggestions into that part of your body and feel them take effect. Feel your body relaxing. And the relaxing sensations hands are now coming into the toes of both of your feet at the same time, moving right on down into your arches, into your heels, and on up into your ankles. Completely relaxed, completely relaxed. And these soothing sensations are now moving on up your legs to your knees, relaxing all the muscles as it goes, and on up your legs to your thighs and to your hips, just completely relaxing. And your full attention is on the sound of my voice as the relaxing sensations move into the fingers of both of your hands, relaxing your hands. And it now moves on up into your forearms, relaxing your forearms, and on up into your upper arms, relaxing your upper arms. And your fingers and hands and forearms and upper arms are now just completely relaxed as the soothing sensations move on down into the base of your spine, and then begin to move slowly up your spine, up your spine, up your spine, and into the back of your neck and shoulder muscles. And the back of your neck and shoulder muscles are now loose and limp, loose and limp, just completely relaxed. And the relaxing sensations now move on up the back of your neck and into your scalp, relaxing your scalp. Feel your scalp relaxing, and feel the relaxing sensations flow down into your facial muscles, relaxing your facial muscles, just completely relaxing your facial muscles. Allow a little space between your teeth, and your jaw is relaxed. And your entire body is now relaxed all over in every way. All tension is gone from your body and mind. All tension is gone from your body and mind. And it's time to imagine a bright white light coming down from above and entering your crown chakra of spirituality on the top of your head. Now this is the universal light of life energy. See it, feel it, create it with the unlimited power of your mind, and feel the light within you, flowing through your body and mind, filling you to overflowing with this bright white protectory light. And now,
this is John Kitover, Chicago mayoral candidate in the February 23rd, 2027 election to defeat the communist, liberal, progressive, pluralist, feminist, LGBTQ, vaccinologist, and bike lane liar and thief, Brandon Johnson. Like, share, subscribe this video, and together we will liberate Chicago.
vividly imagine the light concentrating around your heart area, and visualize it emerging from your heart area to totally surround your body with a protectory aura of bright white God light. And as you continue to listen to the sound vividly imagine yourself in a situation in which you were going down, 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 deeper and deeper down as I count backwards from 7 to 1. Number 7, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 6, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 5, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 4, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 3, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 2, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 1. And you're now very, very deep. And you feel deep. But let's go down even deeper, even deeper, even deeper. Number 7, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 6, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 5, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 4, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 3, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number.
This is a message to concerned Chicago homeowners who have seen their property tax bill raise 100% up to 300%. I read an article in the Sun-Times about a family that owns a house in Lincoln Park. They were paying $8,000, $7,000, $12,000. Now they're being assessed $40,000 a year in property taxes. So home ownership is not affordable. Affordability is a scam. If you're looking for a libertarian candidate to help you liberate Chicago, you need to vote for me, John Kitover. So like, share, subscribe. And together we will defeat the parasite, the communist, the thief, the liar, the fraud, the criminal, the scammer, Brandon Johnson, who is passing out billions of dollars. The city is $90 billion in debt, paying $175 million a month in interest. If the stock market crashes and the pensions crash, the funding liability is still on you. It all comes down to the homeowners getting screwed. The CTU is a parasite, RICO, communist, fascist, terrorist organization. Stacey gave us dates as a liar. She could barely read. And she's educating our students where only 20% of high school graduates can read English? Hello?
2, deeper, 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 down, down, down. Number 1. And you're now relaxed and at ease and at peace in a relaxing, altered state of consciousness. And each and every time you alter consciousness, you will go deeper than the time before, until you've reached your natural level, which can be maintained by using this technique several times a week. Now, if at any time you feel uncomfortable or feeling, all you have to do to awaken is to mentally consciously follow. So you're in control. You can awaken at any time you desire to do so. And you now relaxed and at ease.
Again, John Kitover. Just Google John Kitover or follow me on Instagram at John Kitover. Hello?
Every level of your body.
This is a message to concerned
You release all tension created by stored up energy within your nervous system. All nervous energy is released to flow freely through your body and mind to be used in constructive ways. You feel calm, relaxed, and at peace with yourself, the world, and everyone in it. You have the courage and confidence to do what you need to do to resolve your problems. You can resolve your concerns and conflicts with minimal effort. You accept the things you cannot change, and you change the things you can.
This is a message from John Kitover, Chicago mayoral candidate for 2027, directly to the homeowners of Chicago. This is an emergency taxation alert notification. Brendan Johnson, our mayor, is stealing billions of dollars in the name of equity, DEI, and restorative justice, passing out multi-billion-dollar checks like candy to every scammer on the street because he himself is a fraudster, a liar, a liberal, progressive, pluralist, communist, fascist scammer! Go to ChicagoMayorVote.com right now and contribute to the campaign to elect John Kitover, so I can continue to create alert videos like this for you, the homeowner, who's being suckered. You're the patsy. Billions of dollars are going towards your future taxation bill. The pensions are completely underfunded. The city is $80 billion in debt, paying $175 million a month in interest, plus the pension amounts. I have a plan to save the city. We're going to revoke the financial advisors managing the pensions in Chicago. That'll save us $50 million immediately. Day number 1, we will also cut property taxes 25%. Day number 2, we will rip out every bike lane that is obstructing traffic in this city. Business is the priority. Small business, big business. We want trucks going through our city. We don't want bike lanes stopping trucks from moving through the city of Chicago. And number 3, we are going to sue the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority for fraud, and we are taking back our streets. Free parking forever, and we're suing Rahm Emanuel. Like this video, share, and subscribe.
You can. You accept who you are. You always do your best, which is all anyone can ask. Every day, in every way, you become more peaceful and harmonious. Negativity flows through you without affecting you. As a result of this programming, you develop a new, mellow, and confident self-image. And these suggestions have been communicated to every level of your body and mind. And they've been accepted on every level of your body and mind. And it's now time to visualize yourself having successfully overcome any and all anxiety. Imagine Imagine how good it feels to experience an ongoing quietness of
This is a
spirit.
message from John Kitover.
Imagine your reactions and the reactions of those close to you. Vividly fantasize all the changes and benefits derived from living life in this calm state of mind. Create every detail of these visualizations, and in so doing, you communicate your desires to the levels of mind that will assist you in manifesting the positive outcomes. Imagine what you desire as if it were already so. Do this now while I am quiet for a while.
Is the prince, priest of peace. To threaten a federal law enforcement.
And you've just seen your own reality. And you're open to positive suggestions which you'll accept and act upon. A quietness of spirit now permeates your body and mind. You release all tension created by stored up energy within your nervous system. All nervous energy is released to flow freely through your body and mind to be used in constructive ways. You feel calm, relaxed, and at peace with yourself, the world, and everyone in it. You have the courage and confidence to do what you need to do to resolve your problems. You can resolve your concerns and conflicts with minimal effort. You accept the things you cannot change, and you change the things you can. You accept who you are. You always do your best, which is all anyone can ask.
With the interviews of
Every day, in every way, you become more peaceful.
stuff like proto-socialism, like redistribution of land and wealth, free love, like everyone can go and have sex with whomever, vegetarianism. They weren't pacifists, but they were like, we should minimize any use of force and like harshness, etc., etc. It's a pretty good movement. But then the very emperor who accepted it and started implementing it after I can't remember how much time, like a decade or two, then turned against the movement, and Mazdak was killed. So.
Well, Jason didn't like what you did. Whoa, Gene.
Hey,
How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well.
Wow, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, for sure. For those that don't know, this is Dan Linford. He's distinguished and knows a few things, knows a thing or two. You guys been doing some
Not really. I wanted to do some of the insight
It's not looking
Wait
good.
a minute, wait a minute. If there's only been 200 years of science, that means that it's pretty young.
Well, science may be young, it doesn't mean the Earth is young.
Now it just sounds like an extrapolating.
Yeah, well, real quick, Justin, are you there? Justin. Let's see if Justin comes to the mic.
Well, it seems that there was some statistical breakdown if you believe in like globe Earth, like only for an old Earth for like only 200 years.
Oh, yeah, I mean, so.
The young Earth for many centuries, because some statistical breakdowns like more likely that it's young.
I don't know what the statistical breakdown is that you're referring to.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. I didn't get that either. Maybe he's making a joke. I don't know. Justin, are you not able to speak?
I only have 10 minutes before I get to my destination.
You shouldn't find
Okay.
statistics.
Gene, in 10 minutes, could you share with Justin why he shouldn't be a young earther?
Well, I mean, the preponderance of the scientific evidence is massively against it, right? I mean, like, just about every scientific discipline, as we currently understand it, would have to be modified top to bottom if young Earth creationism were true. So it would be, I mean, I'll put it like this: it's very difficult to know where even to start with a case for an old Earth, not because there's not evidence for it, but because the evidence is so vast that it's like, where do I even like pick up the first piece? But here's one datum that I find impressive, and that's that you have entire ecosystems that are buried one atop of another, right? So the standard account of where fossils come from on the young Earth account is that they were buried by the Great Flood. But if that were the case, then you wouldn't expect to find entire ecosystems buried on top of other ecosystems. Instead, you would find just one ecosystem buried all at once. And moreover, the fact that you do find entire ecosystems buried on top of each other, well, those ecosystems take tremendous amounts of time to establish. The fact that you find a multiplicity of them all buried on top of one another tells you that you're talking about vast stretches of time.
Well, that's too easy.
That's too easy?
It's just too easy to explain. One thing when it comes to ecosystems, if there is a flood, of course you're not gonna find too many fish, on the higher levels. Now you're not gonna find dinosaurs on the lowest levels because they don't live under the water, they don't live under the sea and so on. So you're gonna find fish and animals that cannot run up to the highest levels on those levels. So you're gonna find the animals that are already on a higher level. And you're gonna find animals that could swim their way up to the highest level in the flood, or away from a mudslide or mud avalanche or just mud wave. You're gonna find them on different levels because they all have different abilities. And then also, we have many situations where you have polystrate trees, where the trees are on various levels that are supposed to represent millions of years.
That's not true. That's just not.
Yeah,
so that about the trees is very well known not to be true.
Yeah, not millions of years, Justin. There are polystrate trees, but not as long as you think they are.
So the deal with the trees
you have to take the rocks.
So the deal with the trees is that you have different deposition rates in different areas, and what happens in some areas is that you have very rapid deposition, and those are the places where you find the trees that you're mentioning. You don't find them in the areas that I'm mentioning. As far as you don't. There is no place on Earth where you find such a thing. As far as the
look up the term. Look out. I'm sorry. I'm talking really fast. I'm about to get to my destination. But look at how long it takes for lithification to happen. How long do you think it takes for
let's say, mud to turn into rock.
Why is this relevant?
Because then you would understand how quick it would happen, like how much water is required to bury a tree, fossilize it, and then it appears to be millions of years old.
Okay, but what we were talking about is the situation, like your proposal was that you could have mud coming in very rapidly and burying a tree. My proposal is exactly the same for the trees that you mentioned. So in that case, we agree, and I don't understand,
Well, because your catastrophism looks just like gradualism. For you said it took millions of years.
I reject both catastrophism and gradualism.
Wait, so then how do you know that? So how do you know, how do you reject gradualism?
The standard technical position is not gradualism or catastrophism, it's creationist propaganda that says that that's the textbook position is gradualism. The textbook position among theologists is catastrophism, which by the end of the 19th century had buried together both gradualism and catastrophism. We acknowledge that on the one hand there are large events in the past that are catastrophic, and on the other hand we acknowledge that there are other processes that take a substantial amount of time. So it just depends on...
Don't you think that's convenient?
That's the standard position, whereas the creationist propaganda is that the standard position is gradualism, which is untrue. I'm not a gradualist, nor is any geologist.
Okay, so how would you know when something had taken over millions of years versus just maybe a couple of days? How would you know the difference?
Because we have to know, for example, the composition of the materials that we're talking about, and we have to know the processes whereby those materials formed.
Okay, what material requires gradualism and what materials require, let's say, catastrophism? Don't they both use the same sand, same dirt?
No, they don't.
Oh, really? So if there's a flood, you don't think they're using the same sand that is... If you were to date the sand, how old do you think the sand will be?
That's a different question.
No, because you're using the same...
Look, if you're talking about dating sand, we have to talk about where does sand come from. Sand comes from breaking down rock. Now, if you date that sand, you're going to get the date of the rock that it comes from. You're not going to get the date at which that sand was deposited in the location where you currently find it.
Right. So then how do you think they date the rocks?
It depends. Which rock are we talking about?
Any rock that you see on any strata. Let's say there are no volcanoes, right? There's nothing, right? They got fossils and rocks. How do you think they date that?
Again, it depends. It depends upon the particular situation we're talking about. So
how do you think they date sandstone?
One standard way of dating rock is to use radioisotope dating.
All right. So aren't you dating the broken rocks that come from some kind of maybe volcanic eruption at some point? It will have that same date, wouldn't it?
No, because the way that radioisotope dating works is that you have to have a situation where the particular ratio of radioisotopes was frozen in by a particular process. That way, you can trace that process back and figure out when that material became trapped in the particular rock that you're looking at.
No, that's not how it works.
That is exactly how it works.
Okay, so let's say you got a broken rock, right? That dates millions of years old. You ground it up to powder, right? And then there's a flood. Now that grounded up rock, which is turned into sand or whatever, it buries the body. Are you going to assume that body was buried by something that was millions of years old, and therefore the layer is millions of years old?
No.
Why not?
Because that's not how you would date that. Look, so what you have to, again, the way that radioisotope dating works is that you have to have a situation where a ratio of radioisotope material became frozen into... The Rock.
I'm sorry, I have to go. I have to abruptly go. Sorry for being rude, but probably in 2 hours.
All right, we can pick this up another time.
Carbon, I think with carbon, does it have to get trapped, or is it just the fact that like there's a predictable amount of carbon at the moment of death, right?
So the reason that there's a so first of all, you wouldn't date a fossil using carbon dating, but I think, but the carbon dating is a useful example of how radioisotope dating works, right? Because so what's important with the carbon dating is that you have a situation in which you have a predictable ratio of radiocarbon in an organism at the time of its death, because it's been exchanging carbon dioxide with its environment over its life.
Yeah.
But then what that means is that it has to if the corpse continues to exchange radiocarbon for a long time after the death, then you're not able to determine the
I guess
time of
there
which.
has to be some form of trapping, I guess. Otherwise,
That's right.
Isn't there some like where it's like in the sea or something? I don't know. Yeah, there has to be some form of isolation, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you have to get isolated from the environment. It has to be sufficiently isolated from the environment so that the new radioisotope is not introduced into the material. If it is, then you can't use any kind. You can't. Well, you at least can't use the particular radioisotope that your sample was contaminated with. Which is why, for something that's carbon dated. I mean, what's nice about carbon dating is that an organism naturally exchanges carbon in this environment because we breathe carbon dioxide. A corpse doesn't breathe carbon dioxide, and so there's a natural reason why it stops exchanging radiocarbon with its environment upon its death. If you could conjure up some process whereby the corpse continues to exchange radiocarbon with the environment for thousands of years after this thing dies, then you wouldn't be able to use carbon dating.
There's also, if I remember right, some complication with like coastal organisms or something. Like there's some extra correction factors or something.
That might be, but it sounds like. I mean, mainstream scientists have a long list of documented cases in which radioisotope dating is expected to work in cases in which it's not.
Right.
And then the way that we date strata is not by dating every single material within that strata. Rather, or at least not using radioisotope dating. Rather, you have index rocks and index fossils by which you date particular layers. So you might use uranium dating for a particular layer to get an age for that layer, and then you know that all the material that you find in that layer was laid down at the same time, and so it was approximately the same date.
Yeah. The thing is, right, like I've had this conversation, like versions of this conversation with Justin like quite a few times. And the thing is, he'll always like dig up some counterexample, right, which is typically explained by some, like relatively rare process, right, that like contaminates the sample or just like some unique chemistry or something. And then like you'll say, okay, well, you'll dig through, I'll spend like half an hour like finding out like the explanation and tell him, and he'll be like, this is exactly the explanation. This is exactly the response he'll give. Oh, that just sounds convenient, don't you think? Like every time I find a counterexample, at some level, I don't think he's actually unjustified in an attitude like that, right? It's just something that you have to like look at the wealth of data behind like it's sort of like one of those things like, yeah, in a sense we are kind of adding a ad hoc hypothesis, right? But then we're supporting it independently with a number of observations, like the total like evidential weight of the whole theory plus like minus the penalty for adding
Right.
all these.
I mean, you could look at it as ad hoc, but really what's going on is something that's sort of standard in science. You're doing is you're adding auxiliary hypotheses.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
And,
yeah, that's what I meant. Auxiliary hypotheses. Yeah.
Right. And that's I mean if someone comes along tomorrow and tells us that oh, I made this measurement with, I mean, I'm making up this example, but they tell us, oh, they made this measurement with their telescope, and it makes it look like the all the other planets in the solar system orbit the Earth. Well, what you'd respond with is just to say, oh, there must be something wrong with your telescope.
Yeah, that's right.
And on some level that looks like talk, and that wouldn't be an acceptable response if this were the 15th century or something. But that's not the time period that we live in, right? Like, we live in a time period where an old Earth. I mean, look, Darwin doesn't publish on the Origin of Species until 1859, but already by the 1820s, the geological community had unanimously, or nearly unanimously, come to the conclusion of an old Earth.
I haven't got the date anywhere close to correct, right? Wasn't that when Lord Kelvin was like 1 million years or something?
But that's so Kelvin comes around in the late 19th century, and what goes on with Kelvin is that he's reacting against the scientific consensus of his time, right? So they already knew the Earth was much older than what Kelvin was saying, and in fact, the creationists of Kelvin's time, grabbed onto what Kelvin was saying. It was some time before that was eventually all settled out that people realized that the issue was that Kelvin hadn't taken into account the way that radioactive decay heats up the Earth. And so Kelvin thought that the Earth would have cooled much faster than it actually had. But, I mean, it took people a really long time to eventually settle on a precise age for the Earth, as opposed to just thinking that the Earth is very, very old. Even into into the 20th century, if you pick up some books on cosmology from the 1940s or 1950s, one of the things you'll find out by reading those old books is that at that time they had a problem because what geology was saying was the age of the Earth was older than what at that time astronomers thought that they could say about the age of the universe. And in fact, this is one of the things that motivates Hoyle to develop steady-state cosmology, is that Hoyle was looking for a way for to reconcile these two things: the old age of the very old age of the Earth, with the younger age that astronomers had at that time pulled out for the universe. But eventually, with better measurements and so on of the universe's expansion, people realized that they just had the age of the universe wrong.
Right. When you have conversations with young earthers and stuff, we tell such a simplified story sometimes about what science is and stuff. It's it's very hard to then dive into the messiness of real science, right? So just an example of Justin. Last week, right? He brought up this example. So apparently, in the 70s, they discovered in some strata of the Roraima rock formation in South America somewhere, they discovered pollen, right, from a time period when it just shouldn't have existed, right? A particular kind of angiosperm or something which shouldn't have been there, right? Oh, counterexample, they're always telling us that you'll never find a rabbit next to a dinosaur, and now we found it, blah blah blah. So, and there's a paper talking about whatever, blah blah blah. It's all very respectable from the 70s, and there's actually nothing in the primary literature that's a response to this, an explanation of this. Right? The best I found was a bunch of discussions on websites and a Reddit post from a guy. I mean, he sounded it was actually personally satisfying to me. His explanation was I mean, assuming his basic facts are correct, right? That. The thing is that kind of metamorphic rock is the kind that at that it would have gone through a period of intense temperature and pressure, blah blah blah. You just wouldn't have expected. There's no way pollen would have survived, right? Extended periods of time in that strata. plus like there's good reason to think. I mean, there's good like sort of a priori, whatever you want to call it, like reason to think that there was a lot of like petroleum exploration and fracking, and pollen is actually really commonly used as some sort of, for like some of these like early like whatever like injection things that they do, and so it's and that's just is the best explanation, right? Like we don't have to like suddenly like turn like the age of the earth on its head just based on this one scrap of evidence.
Right. I mean, it's satisfying something like pollen inside of metamorphic rock. It seems like the best explanation is just contamination.
Yeah, but then the problem is I don't have like, so his response is, oh, that's just a guy on Reddit, and I'm like, oh yeah, but I mean,
but look, we can just reason about this as, so if I'm working in a lab somewhere and someone comes up to me and says, hey, like this metamorphic rock has pollen in it, I mean, the obvious thing to say is that it's contaminated. Like, set aside the age of the earth and just ask, is it plausible? Like, what is the most plausible source of the pollen in this metamorphic rock, even if the earth is young? And then the answer is just that it's contamination, because, I mean, as you pointed out, pollen wouldn't survive the temperatures and pressures that go into forming metamorphic rock.
I mean, I think okay. Once we know that, once we establish that, and remember, it's still a guy on Reddit saying it, right? So, I mean, if I was being adversarial, I'd be like, well, there's no reason to believe it. But like, okay, let's just say that we don't know that, right? Then it is like, if you're just like hypothesizing and saying, okay, we have this, now we've learned this data point, right, about this pollen present here, which not been generally predicted, when it's unexpected. Like, unless you're like familiar with the and unless you take a charitable reading of like the sheer magnitude of evidence in favor of old Earth, right?
Right.
Like it's I mean, it's going to be hard to argue against like just saying, oh my God, this is like tossing the whole thing into doubt, right? Like unless you've explained this and a few other scattered facts, right, like this, then we can't like be so confident. I don't know. Like, I like to use this counterexample of like how sometime in like, was it 2015 or so? Remember there was that Italian lab that claimed that they found neutrinos going faster than light, right?
I think that happened at CERN, but yeah, I mean, this is, you have a very well confirmed scientific consensus, and then you find a single data point that may be contrary to that consensus. You want to check that data point very carefully.
Yeah.
And your immediate response should be like tremendous skepticism.
Yeah. Like far more than if like the kind of like, let's say that like your engine light is on your car, right? And you're like, wait, that can't be possible. I just bought the car, right? But I mean, the engine light is pretty strong evidence, right? But like the strength of the prior hypothesis that the Earth is old is much stronger than that, right? It doesn't mean that the engine light comes on, right? Or at least,
it would be like if your engine light on, but you'd also, just had your car was thoroughly checked, and the car was tremendously trustworthy, and at that point, the most plausible explanation is that your check engine light itself has something wrong with it.
Some other example where he, I was talking about, explaining to him how the zircon, uranium, uranium lead dating is generally very reliable because the uranium is extracted from zircon crystals which always reject lead when it's formed. So you know exactly how much it started with, blah, blah, blah. And then he went and found, I don't know how he did this, he went and found some paper on some anomalous sample from Australia where where the zircon dating was off. And there was even how they usually do this thing called isochron dating, right? Where they have where they use two different isotopes or something. And in this case, the isochron also was off or something, and
Well, I mean, I don't think it's surprising that he comes up with these examples because they're well known in the creationist community, right? Like, creationists go out of their way to find these kinds of cases and then catalog them and disseminate to their followers. And often they're things that are published in I mean, they're like relatively obscure. They might not be published in reputable journals. They, the results that are not like very strongly confirmed. But then I think, as you would agree, that even if you had this anomalous data, and even if it checked out, it's unclear what it actually says, right? So suppose that you could somehow show that there were huge problems in the consensus position. I mean, that's been done before. As I said earlier, in the 1940s, 1950s, there was a conflict between the dates that people were pulling out of astronomical data, the dates that people were pulling out of geology, and that shouldn't lead anyone to conclude that young Earth creationism is true, right? Because it's just not. It's not positive data for that hypothesis.
Or that we have like the Hubble tension right now, right? Like, isn't it evidence? Like,
a great example, right, where we have, this huge, this like mounting problem inside of our consensus position in cosmology, but that doesn't mean that just any other cosmology will do, right? Like the plasma cosmology people don't like win just because lambda CDM has some kind of problem.
Dan, have you ever talked to Jason Lyle?
I've not talked to Jason Lyle. I know who he is, and among creationists, I have a little more respect for him than I have some other creationists. He's an interesting person because he's published some like legitimate papers in cosmology, and his defense of a young universe is sort of clever. But
the one way street.
Yeah, I tend to think of him like, because of his credentials and like expertise and stuff like that, it's almost like he's more blameworthy for being a young universer, young earther. It's like he should know better or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I get he took like a kind of novel strategy. Well, I don't even know if it's novel. I feel like other creationists have kind of done similar things, but he probably did more with the with the rigorous math.
There's an older view that came out in a book called Starlight in Time, and there's huge problems with the view that's put forward in Starlight in Time. So there's a paper by Don Page and a co-author, and then there's also some fairly obscure articles by J. Brian Pitts. Those articles thoroughly debunk what's happening in Starlight in Time. Jason Lyle does something different, something that hasn't been directly refuted. There are some arguments against what Lyle is doing, but it's not as easy to refute as what's going on in Starlight in Time. I'll say this too, that Jason Lyle is completely insane, but
yeah, for sure.
But very clever, insane person, right? So, I mean, that makes him really interesting. That's the kind of that is sort of interesting to read, because you get to see like how he pulls out a bunch of like clever things in defense of his craziness.
Yeah, we had a guy on here named Ben Kissling who was a big fan of Jason Lyle, and he debated Ethan Muse on here before Ethan became like a Catholic stan. As he's doing a bunch of Fatima miracles now. I don't know if you know Ethan Muse, but they debated this, and yeah, it came down to this idea of like the light signals from distant stars encode like the proper time. So it's like the stellar processes would have had to have been occurring at a higher rate or something like that to make sense of what wants to say or something like that. I can't remember all the details.
So the traditional problem is that in order for light to get here from distant stars, it would have to take vast amounts of time, much longer than what creationists say. However, what Lyle points out about is that we can only measure the two-way speed of light. We can't measure the one-way speed of light. And so you could postulate that light arrived here from distant stars instantly, or very quickly. The trouble, however, is that those distant objects themselves take time to form. And so, given that those distant objects take time to form, and presumably did not form instantly, the only way to explain their existence is that you have to postulate that they somehow formed at an accelerated rate or something like that. And so one way to look at what Lyle is doing is that he's like moving the lump in the rug from like one place to another. He gets rid of the problem with, the light travel time, but then he's got this other problem with how long it takes for astrophysical structures to form.
Yeah, it's such a strange. Yeah, that like it's like I remember when I first heard the one-way speed of light thing. Most of the examples would have it. You pick a direction. You could have it be instantaneous in one direction and like half speed in the other direction. But he has it all pointing like at the Earth or something like that, which makes it.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, it's bizarre. It would be bizarre for it to work that way. I mean, it's massively prima facie. It's implausible that that's the way that the one-way speed of light would work. But it is true that we can't measure the one-way speed of light, and so at least from that perspective, the one-way speed of light from distant stars could be basically anything.
Wait, Gene, can I ask you a question? So, how does he reconcile that lump of these like celestial bodies that emit this light taking time to form? How does he reconcile that?
Oh, I don't know that he does or can. I mean, but that's going to be that would be the objection that I would give to him, right? That would be the reason that I would have for rejecting Lyle's view. And what I think to be the biggest weakness in it is that, sure, you can move the bump in the rug from the one place to the other, but you still have a bump in the rug.
I wanted to, is there any questions here? And like, Gene, so you guys can answer too, since you guys talk about this. It was a particular question on like, specifically about the art of Adam and Eve. What information do we have on like the animals that existed in that point in creation? Like, were these animals like, what was like the anatomy and physiology of these animals? Because I've been talking to a few of like my religious friends, and we've been going back and forth on specifically about like God's morality. And then I had mentioned the point about like how could the creator be so good, but then he designs his animals, or the design of these animals resides in his intellect in such a way where as soon as the fall hits, these animals were excellent predatory machines, and in parallel, the herbivores and animals that are not predatory were perfect at combating these predators. And like the contention is like, how could the goodness be like observed in his nature, but he takes this action of producing perfect killers and perfect defenders of killers before the fall even occurred.
Right. The creationist view that all the animals in the Garden of Eden were herbivores. Right. You've got like
even
like
an ant. Like, okay, Jimmy, but like what about like an ant here, right?
Yeah.
It has like no mechanism to be a herbivore.
Well, that's right. Well, I mean, it's also like what the hell would a tyrannosaur use the giant teeth for other than cutting meat?
I gave a couple of them the example of like the anteater is built in such a way where it can kill like I don't know how many ants it can eat in a sitting, but it can kill like about a couple 100,000 ants like within a reasonable amount of time within a year, perhaps even a month, right? And then like how's that reconciled? Like I don't know if you guys know any particular explanations on this, but I always
I just feel like they can always appeal to like magic and and supernatural nonsense. So it's kind of
So the way that the place that they go with like sharp-teethed animals is that they try to say that they were for like cutting into melons and so on, which I mean is just kind of dumb. But I don't, what the hell would the what would the hell eater do? I mean, I think that's a great example because it's like,
that's the first thing that came to my mind. Like the anteater, like it literally just destroys entire colonies within like.
They do insinuate there's some kind of anatomical change happening because like the serpent is like cursed to crawl on its belly, so like presumably it was doing something else before it.
Yeah, that's right, but that's the only one. And if you go to like the Creationism Museum in Kentucky, they've got their mock-ups of the dinosaurs that were supposedly in the Garden of Eden.
Well, I'm sorry. Did you say the location so I can like Google this? So I can like look at what you're talking about. You said where?
What's that?
You said a particular museum in a place.
Oh yeah, Creationism, Kentucky.
Okay, sorry, continue.
And they've got like animatronic dinosaurs there, where those animatronic dinosaurs have, they've got like velociraptors or whatever in the Garden of Eden, and they're, like Jurassic Park style velociraptors. So they definitely have like sharp teeth, claws, and shit.
And second question, because perhaps I'm just not educated. Like, so you guys are telling me that these animals, these creatures at the time, they had a form of metabolism. Like, is that okay to say? Because they were herbivores, right? So they were metabolizing the herbs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they would. I think that's what they would say, right? I mean, I think, presumably, the creationists would say that all these animals were herbivores and therefore were metabolizing plants.
And do you think they could, like, so do you think they can reconcile the idea of so because I've seen like biblical context that would support the claim that these animals change in physiology. At least.
Well, like I said, the only one you really have is the serpent being cursed to crawl on its belly, and so that kind of seems to imply it wasn't doing that before, and like whether it had legs or wings or whatever, like it's not, they don't tell you that, But I think from most of the Christians I talk to who take this very seriously say that there was like a dramatic, change to the biosphere when the fall happened. So, it's like as far as I'm concerned, like kind of all men are kind of just say whatever they want about this.
Well, no, I mean the scripture says that all of creation groans and came about on roses and they weren't prior, and that this had an effect to the whole earth. So I don't think that that's why I think a lot of Christians are saying, hey, this is what we'd expect. I think Dan is right. They're herbivores in the garden, and so I think there was a dramatic change to the animal kingdom.
Did they have canine teeth when they were herbivores?
I mean, I don't know.
So, like a saber-toothed tiger would have just been like a tiger.
It would just be a saber tiger. Yeah.
I mean, at the Creationism Museum, what they depict is that these animals have the same teeth and claws, but that they use them differently. Of course, not all. I would expect that not all creationists would agree with what's depicted at the Creationism Museum, and there's certainly no like scriptural support for either view. Right?
What do you mean for either? Like, why can I not hold my presupposition that there was no change in the animal's physiology compared to them saying that there was a change of? We're talking about like tens of millions of types of animals. Which one do you think is more parsimonious? Like, I think that would be ridiculous to take the latter.
Well, I don't think that this happened regardless, right? But if we're doing like this like fantastical world building exercise where we just ask like, what does this text say? The text doesn't say one way or the other. And in that sense, the text doesn't support either hypothesis. I mean, I could imagine Christians going either way precisely because the Bible doesn't directly indicate.
Wait, so Andrew, I have a question. What about like the prey? Like they have no real reason to change, but we understand that the prey animals that we have now, they have their defenses. Some animals are poisonous. Some animals are venomous. Venomous. Sorry, English is not my first language, so I apologize. And what else? Yeah, like we see these animals like with built-in defenses. Now the question is, do you believe that these defenses were just a coincidence, that when the fall came, they just happened to be useful? Or do you believe that those defenses were designed? An example would be like the shell of a tortoise. And like, I feel like the tortoise is a good example because we've had tortoise-like animals for like hundreds of millions of years.
You mean for 4,000 years?
Yeah, sure. 4,000 years. That's what your boat.
I mean, just like I think there's other clues in scripture to give you an idea. I mean, obviously, I mean, Sully.
Like I'll grant you why the predator's been changed or
sure.
Blah, blah, blah. I'll grant you. Like, what about the prey?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you consider labor pains, death, and all of these things coming into, you know, the world and being kind of affecting of all things, I think that God and you know maybe just the metaphysics that are set up are going to alter everything, physical structures of all kinds of stuff. So I mean, that's not outside of the range for me. Like I think that's given the fact that given the narrative, God created everything with His Word. I don't think it's too far fetched that the metaphysics are set up such that everything is going to be there's going to be a complete overhaul of structures given sin to show what it's done, how it affects everything. And so I'll just point something out that it says in the last days, I believe it's towards the end, that the lion, something like the lion and the lamb will lay down together, something like that. I have to pull the passage.
I mean, I agree. I know what you're talking about. They'll have no reason to defend or attack one another from each other.
Yeah, so there's going to be like this symbiosis that's going to be restored. That I think. So I mean, I think that just shows that like it's not God's original intention that there's all this predation, and everything that's happened. So I don't know. I guess it would just have to be an unspecified change.
Everything that's happened, like that whole Adam and Eve falling out, breaking apart,
set up the mechanism such that it would just unfold that way. The scripture doesn't really tell us, but it is true that there was a mass change, and that is in scripture. So it's not like an ad hoc thing, But yeah, I think that's right. It's the best I got for you, man.
That's okay.
Are you a leaning theist, Sam, or where are you at?
Andrew, this is Samir. You know who this is.
Yeah, Samir. I'm calling you Sam. That's why I said Sam.
No, don't call me Sam. That's a girl's name.
Oh, you don't like that?
No.
Wait until Sam comes in here, the dude. He's going to get mad at you. But all right.
I'll apologize to him, but, Samir.
Sorry.
I mean, dude, I was like a hardcore, like, Catholic, I used to like slam atheists, like, back then, like, using, like, particular arguments, but I've changed over time.
Yeah.
Up here.
What'd you say, G?
Someone should invite Jack up. He's down in the audience.
Oh yeah, can somebody, can a mod invite Jack up?
Dan, I wanted to run something by you, but I'm worried it might take too long to lay out. But this idea for an argument, sort of an epistemic challenge for substance dualists, but the variety of substance dualists who are interactionists and deny overdetermination. I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot. I should maybe pick your brain on what you think about it, because it kind of relies on a way of thinking about the laws of physics.
Okay.
So the idea is to kind of think about causal mixing between like physical and non-physical causes. Okay. And so the idea is that I guess you can go through considerations as to why I think this, but that the laws of physics should be thought of as telling you how physical stuff behaves when it's not being interfered with by non-physical, supernatural cosmic forces. Because I think if you try to include it, it causes other issues. So like I think the way to think about it is that the laws of physics tell you is stuff behaves when there isn't stuff intervening, not physical force. And then there's a technical problem where if you don't know how much problem mixing there is between physical and non-physical causes, and you're only observing the physical space, initial and subsequent physical space, that like there's going to be interference happening, right? Such that you can realize it, and then you can infer a theory of physics that predicts what's actually happening due to interference. And so the idea that you're in this, unless you know how much interference there is, where it happens, you won't be able to say whether you're actually confirming or your theory of physics is getting closer to the ideal theory or what's going on.
The bagpipes never had one lesson, not one fucking lesson, and I can play the bagpipes. Goddamn, they're perfect, perfect bagpipes. Big Seal. LGBTQ seal, suck a dick and I'm riding that. Picking up in, Big C. Don't fuck with Big C. Big C will fuck you up. Chi-Town don't fuck with my man Big C. My #1 commentator and liker. First thing when you play the pipes, you put it on your fucking bark like that. And then you put this in your fucking mouth.
For that view, but this one, like, I want to target the one that says like there's causal interference such that overdetermination is actually false, right? And the idea for them is to say like, okay, well, it's basically like an epistemic version of the interaction problem. It's like saying unless you can solve the interaction problem, then you're actually in like a skeptical quandary because in order to confirm a physical theory, you have to be able to do this kind of isolation. And if you can't isolate it, then what you naively confirm could be the result of rampant interference or like niggling interference, and you're not going to be able to tell the difference because all you can do is look at the physical behaviors and try to model it. Regulate.
Claim about interference if it's overdetermination of what's going on. So, what I initially proposed we were talking about is a view under which physical causes underdetermine outcomes.
Never had one lesson.
And there's supernatural phenomena that invisibly
feedback
and produces the effect that we ordinarily take to be the consequence of physical phenomena, but actually you're describing as the antecedent physical stuff is entirely sufficient.
No. You were right. You were right the first time. I'm just contrasting it because I'm saying like there's two different types of like interaction of substance dualism. So there's the one where they say like causal closure is fine, overdetermination is fine, and then there's the other one where they deny causal closure and overdetermination. And so it's the one where they're denying it that's like the target of this like epistemic worry, because the idea is that it's like it requires an account of how much interference there is first, and like where it's operant, right? In order to then isolate.
Is it playing the bagpipes?
I'm confirming a theory.
Where the fuck did Kitover learn to play the bagpipes?
Yeah, I mean, I think. So look, we don't even need to talk about the supernatural here, right? Like we can talk about this entirely in physicalist terms, because you can imagine the following. Imagine that there's some physical phenomena that we ordinarily take to be the consequence of some fairly mundane physical causes. But now someone comes along and tells us, oh, I have a new hypothesis. You see, the physical causes that you take to be sufficient for this outcome is not truly sufficient for it. there's actually these.
This is
serious
John
particles
Kitover,
that
Chicago
come
mayoral
from
candidate,
outer
fighting for
space.
all of
They're
Chicago.
at just the
We're
right
fighting the
place
affordability
to
scam
produce
that Brandon
these
Johnson
outcomes that
keeps
you're
pushing
blaming
on
on these
everybody. He
ordinary
is the
physical
scam.
causes.
He's spending and
Right, because
grifting
it's
and
systemic
stealing
corruption.
billions of dollars either through tax
And
credits
so, but
or
no,
through
that's not a really
grants.
spooky
We have to
view. Like, these
resist this
particles in
communist
space
spending
come in at just the
takeover.
times when you
We have to
need them.
protect the pensions and
Right? I
protect
mean,
the
like,
city from
correlations
crime.
are insane.
We have to defeat Brandon Johnson,
It's right.
Alexi, as well as Susan Mendoza, la comunista feminista de Chicago.
Because it's like, well, look, maybe if you didn't
I want
have
to dedicate this song to Officer Bartholomew.
You know, and this is just the one that seems so natural.
It'll be the worst bagpipes you've ever heard because I've never had one lesson, but
It's like, yeah, that's because you're.
happy Friday night, Chicago. Go to ChicagoMayorVote.com.
What this means is that so the laws that I think that there are not the actual laws, right? Like that's in effect what's going on with this particle case. That there's some set of empirical regularities that I believe in that are not actually don't actually obtain because it requires this like extra outside ingredient.
Maybe the way to frame it is to say like you have a bunch of empirical regularities, and then in the background you think there are both physical and non-physical causes, and so then it's like okay, when I'm explaining the empirical regularities, like how much of that do I attribute to just the theory of what the physical does, and how much of it do I attribute to like the causal mixture?
Yeah, I mean, I think the point about the particle case was that this doesn't require anything about the supernatural. This is just a feature of scientific confirmation in general that, I mean, so consider this case. Suppose that I walk into a room where there's a giant machine
Never had one lesson.
in this room, and I observe this machine for a long time, and there's a like a chute at the end of the machine where marbles come out. And what I hypothesize is that there's a mechanism inside of this machine that produces marbles. So indeed, if I look inside the machine, I see like a bunch of marble-producing gadgets, whatever. And then someone comes along and they say, actually, I have an alternative hypothesis. My hypothesis is that there are invisible rays that intercede on the air at the chute at just the time when you expect a ball to come out, and those rays merge the air together, they condense the air into a marble, and that's what you actually get. Now that hypothesis seems absurd on its face. Why? Because what it requires is that, like, when you see the mechanisms working inside the machine, those are the times when the rays intercede at the chute. Right? But why should there be this correlation between the machine mechanism and the rays? Right? There's some internal tension in this alternative hypothesis because it requires this like crazy correlation. Likewise with the dualism in question, what it requires is that we've got a whole bunch of like neurophysiological phenomena that is very strongly correlated with external behavior of human beings and so on. You could postulate that there's some missing ingredient that we don't observe, but that's perfectly correlated with all this neurophysiological stuff. But now the question becomes, why is that like invisible supernatural soul stuff or whatever perfectly correlated with all the neurophysiological stuff?
Because theism is true.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I guess I take your point. I think I should probably think about it a little bit more, but maybe this like illustration will help like get the idea that I'm playing with, I guess. So like the cream and coffee example, and Sean Carroll gives it all the time for like entropy or stuff and stuff. Like you have half cream, half coffee, and you mix it together. There's like complex swirls for a little while.
Yeah, that was an example well.
Yeah, so like when I think of causal mixing, I'm kind of thinking of it like, okay, imagine if you could only see what the cream was doing, right? So you get all these crazy complex swirls of cream, and it's like you can't see the coffee. So it's like there is this causal influence happening between the two. But like you're just looking at the cream, and it's like you could think, okay, yeah, I could have a theory.
But wait a minute, we have that. We have cases like that already. I mean, we don't have to. No one directly observes neutrinos, right? We indirectly observe neutrinos in a kind of like really elaborate and roundabout way. In fact, it's much more roundabout than what's required for, if you could only see in the coffee and cream case, if you only see the one colored blocks and you couldn't see the other ones. In that case, you can infer the existence of the other ones because there are gaps, right? Where the other, like if you only can see the white ones, there's black, there's gaps where all the black ones are. With neutrinos, it's much more indirect than that, and yet we can still infer their existence.
Sure. I think if the dualist person in question thinks we can infer the existence of this non-physical stuff as well, but like the way I'm thinking of it is like if we look at like the state of the creed at one time, and then the next time, and so on, and then like you could have a theory that predicts those states in that sequence that makes no mention of the time, right?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I think what you would have is a theory that's isomorphic to the one where you have the two colored blocks, and so it turns out just to be mathematically equivalent. In other words, it just turns out to be like a notational variable.
Can't blow anymore! Make it
That's not
stop!
what's going on with the dualist.
Make it stop! I can't blow anymore! Make it stop!
In the case of the neutrino, for example,
Never had one lesson. Learning the bagpipes at 43.
Infer the neutrino's existence through this really indirect way, because they're otherwise basically invisible. They do have their own consequences that makes it mandatory to postulate them. But under the particular kind of dualism that you're imagining, there's this perfect correlation between natural events and supernatural events in such a way that one can develop an entire theory just of the natural events without ever mentioning the supernatural ones. Right? And that's precisely what it is that requires this really strange co-openness realm.
Sure. I mean, I'm willing to give grant that it's a good way to talk about it. I think my ultimate point is like, okay, if you have this kind of thing conflicting you might develop a theory where you're just looking at the cream states and you have a theory that predicts like subsequent cream states, right? And you could be mistaken. You're thinking like there is actually a lot of exactly because we have this perfectly good theory that explains what the cream is doing without anything else, But you would in fact be wrong if that's not what the cream would do in the absence of other things affecting it. That would be.
In the case of the coffee and cream, again, if you only were looking at the cream particles, the gaps between them would force you to postulate the other particles that were standing for them. In the case of dualism, the particular kind of dualism you're imagining is much more like a case that Feynman talks about when he's thinking about gravity. So Feynman imagines an alternative to Newton's account of gravity. What's responsible for the force that pushes planets around the sun are invisible angels. Now, in that case, you can imagine that, had the angels not been there, then the planets would have, carried on their way they would have right. But the thing is that you can explain the planet's motion with a much simpler theory, which is why we don't possibly
Like with the angels and the others, like, okay, questions you independent motivation for like non-physical causal interference. You know what I mean? So like, I think if you reject that we have like independent motivation for it, then we don't have to worry about it as much. But like in the traditional days where you have like independent lights, it was really easy to get there. So like yeah, it seems like the angels we know, the Victory knows what to do, so like that could that resolves that.
Yeah, I mean, what's really strange about the mental is that it seems almost obvious, like there's something going on to what's happening physically because we have like first-person subjective experience, and yet if you actually look inside someone's head, you find nothing going on there that doesn't also happen outside of heads. So I think I find that extraordinarily puzzling, but I think it runs into that puzzling fact that it seems obvious on the one hand that there's something in addition going on, but also that we can't locate it anywhere. It's sort of in microcosm what's going on in this version of dualism.
Yeah. I mean, I think like Brian Cutter. I don't know how much of Brian Cutter Steve listens to, right? Sort of, but he seems interesting in other things. We haven't really put like a brain and particle collider. We haven't done this kind of rigorous particle physics like on an actual brain. He seems to think that's enough to say like we don't know, if the electrons in the brain behave as they do elsewhere, and
well, I mean, the reason that they behave as they do elsewhere is that you can do, we know a lot about the chemistry that goes on in the brain, right? I mean, so particle colliders are good for figuring out things about electrons at very high energy, but there aren't very high energies inside the brain. I mean, this is another reason that what's going on with consciousness is profoundly mysterious, because we, for an object like the temperature and size of the brain, we think we have a fairly good idea of all of the physics that happens there. To go to see exotic physics, you have to do something exotic, like get stuff in very high energy, but that's precisely what's not happening in the brain.
Yeah, I agree. Or like very low temperatures or something like that. But
the low temperature one is important too, because the kind of proposal that someone like Dr. Penrose has is plausibly going to require extraordinarily low temperatures. But that's just not, your body's not like that.
Yeah, I've heard that argument before about like the. I guess I don't find it super persuasive. They figured out, there's quantum mechanical effects going on with like murders and like tracking back to human lives. I can see something.
Well, I guess this will be a wall-mounted piece of art, I suppose.
So, for example, the fact that I don't fall through the bed that I'm sitting on right now, it's entirely due to the fact that it's entirely due to quantum mechanical phenomena. It's due to, for example, the Pauling exclusion principle, and it's the fact that my bed has thermal properties that it has. That is basically in terms of its heat capacity, but the heat capacity of various objects is explained in terms of quantum mechanics. In fact, in relativistic quantum mechanics, to explain the fact that Mercury is a liquid room temperature, you also need relativistic quantum mechanics to explain the color of gold. What's going on with Penrose, though? So it's not just the quantum mechanics is being postulated to play some role. And how does the quantum mechanics play some role in this chemistry play some role? What everyone should agree upon is that whatever's going on inside of quantum mechanical.
Sure, he's saying there earlier all those things.
Yeah, and well, he's saying more than that. He wants to invoke a quantum gravity theory.
Yeah, for sure. I think he has the wrong interpretation. I actually got to, so you know Brian Keating? He used to go on Brian Keating. He's kind of a bit of a but Penrose was on his podcast, and I got to ask a super chat question. I asked him, do you think something like Orkor work if Many Worlds was right? He was just like, I don't know, I don't understand Many Worlds. I'm like, okay. Yeah, and so he has a strange interpretation that I think is probably wrong. I don't know. I do find the microtubule stuff is fascinating to me, though.
Yeah, well, if Penrose says he doesn't understand Many Worlds, I don't really understand where he's coming from, because, so in Penrose's own view, you have Many Worlds-like superpositions, except that gravitational systems, he thinks, can't superpose, or that is, superpositions of masses are unstable. And so you get spontaneous wave function collapse, he thinks, because of gravity. But then that means that prior to collapse, you just have Many Worlds, right? So it's like, so his view, in some sense, is just a modified version of Many Worlds. And so I don't know how you can say that he doesn't understand it.
Yeah, I do think that's a weird issue. That I love Sean Carroll, so I probably absorbed a little bit too much Sean Carroll content, but the way he always puts it is that every other interpretation has to get rid of the state, or at least one of the states that's in a superposition, and they just disappear from reality.
Yeah, no, Sean is great. I have drunk the sacred wine that Sean puts out.
Yeah, he's quite good. I like when he does these solo podcasts too. I was listening to one he was doing about the cosmological constant the other day, but I still haven't finished all of them.
But yeah.
Oh, have you ever considered debating Luke Barnes, or have you?
I've not debated Luke Barnes. People keep asking me to do it, but I haven't worked very much on fine tuning. I've been doing a little bit of work lately, trying to get into that, but I think to debate Luke Barnes, I would need to do a lot of prep.
Yeah, that's fair. I emailed him to ask him, because I realized, it was funny because I had kind of stumbled upon this cosmological constant stuff, and then I heard you talking about it at one point, and I was like, oh yeah, Dave's on the same page as me with this, because I emailed Luke Barnes to ask him, how are you getting these numbers? Can you walk me through it? And he is just getting it basically from the Planck vacuum energy density, calculation, and it's like, okay, but why are you taking that so seriously as to say this is the true possibility for the cosmological competition?
Right. Yeah, I mean, what's weird because recently I had a exchange with Philip Goff. It was in a Q&A on a thing that a friend of mine put together, but and I brought up this point with Goff, and he said that he had previously asked physicists that he knows about this, like Luke Barnes, and they had told Goff that I was wrong about this, and I was just like, well, there's no way that Luke said that. So while Goff was talking, I pulled up a paper that Luke Barnes and Goff had recently co-authored, and sure enough, within that very paper, in the section that presumably Barnes wrote, it says exactly what I would say about the cosmological constant.
Yeah, I was there for that. That was beautiful. That whole takedown of Goff. But
yeah, a lot of people about that.
I hope that it gets uploaded at some point. I think somebody was recording it.
This week. So it's gonna go up soon. But yeah, I mean, I have a that was actually what got me to start thinking about writing something on this. Well, that, and there was someone wrote a blog post in response to something similar that I had said a few years ago. So I started to write a blog post just to sort of put my own ideas together about this. But I don't know. People have been encouraging me to write that up and publish it. But I feel like what I have to say here is just sort of the obvious and already well known at least inside the physics community. And so maybe what I should do is write something that's just specifically for philosophers of religion to be like, hey, here's a bunch of distinctions you should be at least paying attention to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be useful. I think there should be some crossover between the philosophy of physics and the philosophy of religion if they're going to be doing this, this kind of appeal.
Yeah, well, what's funny, too, is that, I make a big deal about the fact that there's these two senses of the phrase fine-tuning. But if you look in the physics literature, what people now call fine-tuning for life, those were originally called anthropic coincidences. And so if you go back to the literature from the 1970s or before, people were not talking about fine-tuning for life. And then at some point, maybe in the late 70s or into the 80s, something like that, they start using that fine-tuning for life language.
Yeah, and I think at that time, too, there was, for a long time, the kind of fine-tuning argument was run on the idea that the discovery was that the laws are stringent and that the range of the life permitting range is narrow. But they seemingly have moved on from that. This kind of stringent versus lax laws stuff.
Yeah.
And so now it's this Bayesian formulation of it where it's just
Well, they had a Bayesian formulation of some kind in the 70s and 80s. There's a whole bunch of papers that Weinberg published that approach the fine-tuning of the cosmological constant from a Bayesian perspective. But I don't think anyone reads that stuff anymore. I mean, it's nor do I think many people read the older coincidences literature. The reason that they called it the anthropic coincidences was that there was a broader coincidences literature that had to do with taking a kind of numerological look at our fundamental physical theories. For example, Dirac had this thing called the large numbers hypothesis. Doesn't really have anything to do with fine-tuning for life, but it does have to do with strange numerical coincidences between various physical constants. And it was that sort of the stuff that's one of the ancestors to today's fine-tuning discussion.
You know what seriously reminded me of the fine-tuning stuff? And I have to get off mic here, and I know Andrew wants to talk to you as well, but Avi Loeb with his 3-eye atlas, this alien spaceship routine? It reminded me so much of those design arguments because he's just it's coming in at this angle, and of all the angles it could have come in from, this is really unlikely, and it's it's passing by 3 planets kind of closely.
That's hilarious.
It reminded me so much of this fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they are exactly parallel. Right? I mean, it's it's a kind of design argument.
Anyways, I'll shut up. I appreciate talking to you though, Dan. Andrew.
Very good. Go ahead, D-Mark.
I have a way of settling this fine-tuning conundrum once and for all. You just take all the fine-tuning constants, right? They just line them up. It's something like 30 or something, right? That should be enough for this. And then you just verify if Benford's law applies to them or not. And if it does, then it's random. Otherwise, it's been fine-tuned.
Well, I wonder if that's ever been done. I mean, I don't know if that would really. I think it, it was a joke that you're making, but I do think it would be. I don't know what it would tell us, but I think it would be interesting if someone did that.
I don't know if 30 numbers is enough, but
What's Benford's
Well, you
law?
have a whole bunch of parameters that you could take, right? So you can take like all of the different masses, and then
there's a
there's
bunch of cosmological ones. I was just thinking of the standard model as like 20 something.
Yeah.
There's a bunch more. Yeah.
Right. But then you also have like things you can compute from those quantities, like the ratios and so on. Yeah, I don't know how much you need for Benford's law.
Deepak, would you like to confess to Dan what happened with you, Bob?
What happened with me?
Do you want to tell him what you said? There's a 20% chance that it's correct.
God, oh my God! I said there's a 20% chance. I think 20% is probably an overestimate, but all I meant is there's a non-zero chance.
Deepak, no. No. You stick with your number, or you keep it close to that. Don't tell me non-zero.
Yeah, because so now that I'm a theist, I guess I have to not revise my views anymore. That's what theism entails. But I said that there's a 20% chance that there's some sort of aesthetic deist kind of god or something, like non-interventionist. Maybe created the world and walked away.
20%? Can you believe that? Dan, how crazy is Deepak? I mean, how gullible do you have to be? What do you think, Dan?
There's a reporter from the American Journal of Physics from 1991 on called Benford's Law and Physical Constants: The Distribution of Initial Digits. Yeah.
From 1990. Okay, who's the author?
It's by Burke and Kincannon. Here, I'll put it into the chat.
What is Benford's Law?
It's a statement that it's this observation that let's see if I get this right. When you collect a bunch of data or numbers from random processes, right? Let's just say that you collect statistics on I don't know, age, average age of the population, this, that, a whole bunch of statistics and put them together, right? You might the observation is that the distribution of digits isn't actually uniform over 1 to 10, but or is it the distribution of the first digit? I actually don't remember exactly what it is. Let me just look it up.
I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it's there's a natural distribution of digits that you expect in randomized data, and then if data has been purposely manipulated and you have a large enough data set, then you can actually detect that manipulation from the fact that the digits in the manipulation don't match what you would expect from randomized data, right? So credit card companies use this kind of thing. Companies that need to detect fraud, use this kind of statistics. And so the suggestion, and this was kind of a joke that was being made, but the suggestion was that, well, imagine that you go look at the physical constants, and you look at the distribution of digits among the physical constants. Suppose that it turned out that the statistics are what you would have said were the result of interference as opposed to randomized processes. In that case, you might suggest that the universe has been tampered with.
So it appears that it does satisfy Benford's law. So that settles it once and for all. No God. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, I think you look at for example, under Benford's law, the number of times the first digit of some data point is 1 is 30%, right? Whereas if it was truly just random noise, you would expect to see it 10%, right? And apparently, yeah,